Here we are. The live author chats are back. Welcome, everyone. I'm A.G. Billig, as you can see, and I'm delighted to host this segment of the BookFest Spring 2022 with the one and only Scott Ryan.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. We're going to have an amazing time. There's giveaways, there's a ton of authors, and I mean, we have some incredible topics. Like, these are not just your run-of-the-mill authors here. We've got some exciting books to talk about tonight.
Yes, and you're going to learn so many things. You're going to also learn how to live like a millionaire, even when you're a million short. And you're going to learn how to make the best kefir in the world. But for now, we would like to bring back into the studio someone who is behind all this wonderful adventure, the BookFest. Hi, Desiree.
Hey guys, how you doing? I am so excited for this. Woohoo! Live author chats. Yeah.
Yes.
And Scott is absolutely right. The big bundle of books is being given away. You're freezing on me a little bit there, AG. I have a feeling it's the aliens and their ray gun. They're freezing you.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love that we're
getting this big bundle
there. I'm so excited about this giveaway. So you're going to pop on at the end and tell who the winners are, and then I have to deliver them by hand. Is that the rule?
I can help you, Scott.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, thank you.
We can go together. But I know that you have you're here with us because just before the author live chats started, you had an amazing conversation with two amazing gentlemen, and one of us is here with us today. So I'll let you make the introduction.
Absolutely. Thank you, AG. And I am going to bring the magical wizard alien man himself into the chat. It is Paul Hynek. Thanks for that conversation with Dr. Shermer there, Paul. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun. I mean, it's such a meaty topic. There aren't many more important questions than is there life elsewhere that may be coming here, except for perhaps why didn't we buy Bitcoin in 2010?
Or gold.
And there's no proof that the aliens are behind Bitcoin, right? There's no proof in that.
I'll neither confirm nor deny that.
Ah, so close. Another X-Files.
Okay, so if people do have questions, we've got Paul with us until about 20 after, and then we'll be bringing in Virginia Fox. But Paul, I have a question to ask you, and I want you to blink once for yes and twice for no. Are the aliens right now controlling you and forcing you?
I think they're controlling Desiree.
Yeah, I think they are controlling each one of us.
Answered the questions in that debate in a certain way.
I did not jam Desiree's feet.
Okay, so I do have a question though about, I got some notes here, and I think AG might need to help me with the pronunciation. The Pleiadians?
The Pleiadians? Yeah, the Pleiadians, yeah.
Okay, the question I guess is about the Pleiadians and the dark telepathic chatter.
Yeah, so let's not paint with an overly broad brushstroke on all of the Pleiadians. I think you're referring to the renegade Pleiadians, who are wont to employ dark telepathic chatter to enslave us. A little bit dark, but there are lots of other alien species, as you can read about in Craig Campobasso's Encyclopedia of Alien Species, that are here to protect us. So there you go.
I think my children are part of that group. I'm pretty certain. They're the
Which
renegades.
One? The Pleiadians?
They're in the renegades.
Yeah. I mean, dark telepathic chatter is just a lovely turn of phrase. And if it's being employed against us, oh boy, that's dark.
Yeah. I mean, that's a rough way to go. How did you get into all this?
I was born, it's kind of like family business. I was born into this. I don't know life without UFOs. We had flying saucer ornaments on our Christmas tree, for crying out loud. So, and for a while, my bedroom, much to my chagrin, was the largest UFO library in the world, which had, Desiree, Eric von Daniken's books, which I didn't really care to read.
Oh, really? Really? Well, I think von Daniken is almost like a gateway, for a lot of the people, at least in my era. I feel like that's the thing that kind of went, whoa, this could be a thing. And it seemed like that is the book or the idea, his books actually, that led to Ancient Aliens and all of those. So I do have another question here about you being a nanny for 100 hybrid alien babies. What's that?
First, let's go back to von Daniken. And you mentioned that he's sort of a gateway. I know a lot of people had their first brush with ufology through Eric von Daniken, but I would liken that to if you take high school physics and you get about 2/3 of the way through the class, and then they tell you, oh, by the way, none of this is real. It's just abstract simulation. That's kind of like von Daniken. It's not real at all. It's interesting, and it may pique your interest. No, I am not a nanny for human hybrid alien babies. Sounds like a good gig if you can get it.
Okay.
Now, I would like to mention I didn't have a chance in the debate.
Keep going.
Thanks. To respond to a couple points that Michael made. He called the residue the 5% of cases and said, okay, it's only 5%. Well, if 5% of airplanes crashed, that's significant. So just because it's 5% doesn't mean it's not significant. Another thing is about cell phones and why don't we have more photos? Try taking a picture of the moon with your cell phone. You're calm. It's not moving around. It's just not very easy to do. So the fact that we don't have what some people would consider enough cell phone pictures and videos of UFOs isn't necessarily significant. We've got thousands and thousands of cases that have radar corroboration of films and visual sightings. So there's enough evidence. It's just a question of how you look at that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get more and more releases of videos and photos from the military and individuals.
I have a couple of questions here that are coming in. And one piggybacks on that. Why are all the photos of UFOs blurry? Why aren't there any high qualities? That makes sense about the moon. I'm going to add my own caveat. There's a lot of UFOs that are apparently around during the daytime too. And I get it with the cell phone, but at this point, a lot of people have some pretty good cameras, just on hand. What would you say to that?
So, and Elon Musk has a pretty good tweet about this, showing the resolution of cell phone cameras going up, but the resolution of UFO pictures staying the same. So, I don't really know. Again, I think it might be pretty hard to take pictures of them. Then you get into sort of more, deeper levels of conspiracy or just theories that perhaps they don't want their pictures taken. It's a murky field. And what I do is I look at the evidence that we do have, and I stop with the frustration of trying to understand why there isn't more, because there's enough already to convince me there's something going on. I just don't know what.
So basically, you're saying that we're like the alien paparazzi. I'm getting it. Someone has a question for you. Do you believe in ancient aliens?
Well, I've been on the show Ancient Aliens several times, and they have a very successful business premise. They don't say the ancient Egyptians were in communication with the Peruvians who made the Nazca lines. They say, what if or could the ancient aliens have been talking with the Peruvians? So they raised the questions. And before I went on the show, I said, look, I'm not comfortable, drawing these conclusions between things that I see on the show. They said, you don't have to. So I talked about things that I knew about. They draw the executive producer of the show had no idea it would go beyond the first like 2-hour pilot that they made. And so they made a lot of content for the show over, I don't know, 12, 13 seasons. And, it's up to people who watch it to decide how credible their evidence is.
Yeah.
My mom used to get very angry at sort of Mormon origins about Mormons coming here because she felt that denigrated the intelligence of the Native Americans. I also think you don't need aliens to explain building the pyramids and other things. I mean, aliens may have come here, and there's interesting artwork and tapestries and cave paintings that, kind of look like aliens. So they could have been here. They could be our ancestors, but ancient civilizations were pretty smart, and we don't have to have some kind of alien deus ex machina to explain Stonehenge and the pyramids.
Then I think we might ask ourselves, how come those civilizations were so smart, and then we ended up in the Dark Ages, and then, we are back where we are today. But we have another question from the audience, and it's an interesting question, I guess, because it says, how do you account for certain sea animals that share no DNA with any other creature on Earth?
Yeah, being as how I'm a French major, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer a question like that. Octopi.
Please answer in English, please.
Well, octopus are, and I think the plural is octopus. They're fascinating creatures, the cephalopods. They're very intelligent, and they seem quite different. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of mysteries in the world, and that's one of them.
Do you feel bad that you have to answer for like all of these things? Like, I was just realizing, like, how rough is that for you that you have to answer for like the DNA of sea animals and everything? I mean, that's kind of nuts.
Well, I'll relate this, an anecdote. So when my father was portrayed in Project Blue Book, which was a great show, the problem is when you have a scientist in a show, you don't have the opportunity to introduce a lot of characters. So it's kind of a shorthand to make a scientist who specializes, like my father, in astrophysics talk about things like fauna in Kentucky or deep sea ocean currents, because that's the sort of authority figure on the show. And this is not limited to Project Blue Book. And you have to sort of restrain that impulse because you need the plot advanced. But it's, somebody like my father, if you ask him a question about black holes, he'll say, I don't really know, but you're a PhD in astrophysics. He'll say, but my PhD is in red dwarfs. So, scientists become very specialized. So for me, being not a scientist, I could talk about DMT, I can talk about anything, and, doesn't really matter because I'm not an expert on virtually anything.
Well, we're glad we have you here then.
One of the things I want to... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, it's fine.
I was just going to bring up, because Paul's dad, your father, did consult on movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I just think is awesome. I'd love for you just to maybe talk about that just for a minute or two, because I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so, my father was hesitant about the movie Close Encounters before it came out. And for those who don't know, the title Close Encounters is from my father's classification system. So Steven Spielberg approached him, asked him to be involved with the movie. He was the technical advisor. So a lot of the things that happen in the movie come from actual UFO reports. They used the title, and my father had a small cameo role. So he was a little bit hesitant because when Hollywood comes a calling for a subject that has a bit of especially back then, a bit more of a stigma to it, you don't know how they're going to treat it. And most Hollywood portrayals are at that point were ray guns and evil aliens. And of course, Close Encounters had a very different image. So my father was happy with it. And indeed, it really made a lot of people feel more comfortable about coming forward and relating encounters or experiences they felt they'd had. I think Project Blue Book was much in the same vein. there's a lot of true aspects to it, and they add on layers of dramatization, and that helps welcome more people into the field. There's kind of a UFO echo chamber of people who already believe, and they read the same books and go to the conferences. But it's really a service, I think, to have a piece that has some kind of fiction. And Project Blue Book is just great yarns and really fun. It brought a lot more people into it so that they could go along this sort of same kind of narrative arc that my father did, from a confirmed skeptic, not to a believer, but to somebody who accepted the weight of the data. And one of the interesting things on Project Blue Book, which is I was delighted to be involved with, was I think in episode 6 of season 2 was about the movie Close Encounters, and I had a cameo at the end of the show. I'm the camera operator in a crane, and I asked them, "Hey, should I say anything?" I said, "No, it's probably best if you don't, because I think my magnetism was so strong already." Right?
I'm sure.
So
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I had a cameo role in the TV show about my father, in the episode about the movie in which my father had a cameo role.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's cool. That's cool.
And
That's
then
neat.
I went
That's
out with
like a full circle thing.
Yeah, and that night I went out with Aidan Gillen, who plays my TV dad, until about 7 a.m.
Hey, that's a good night.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, that was Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah. And thank you, Desiree. And it's not super creepy at all to have the super villain from Game of Thrones play your TV father, for the record.
Right.
I love
A.G,
it.
did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question actually, because on the internet you can find so many articles and pictures and drawings of aliens, and I was wondering, Paul, if you ever picture an alien in your in your imagination, how the alien look like, how they behave.
That's a great question. I don't know. A lot of skeptics say, well, why do we all see aliens that look like us? Or why do we see craft that look like us? In the 1890s, there were reports of like steampunk airships. I think part of that is that we filter things through the lenses of our current knowledge. Richard Dawkins also has an idea about convergent evolution, that even in a somewhat different planet, that there's a reason that we look like we do. It's not just chance. And that it could be likely that aliens on other planets that are roughly similar to ours would look like us. A lot of the reports are of what they call gray, small, diminutive beings with big eyes and small noses. One of the interesting theories is that they may not actually be what we consider to be unique identities, but more sort of sentient AI entities that are part more of a hive mind. I find that fascinating. There's a lot of reports of different appearances for aliens, and another, they may not have a fixed incorporation in a body, and they may assume a shape that we're comfortable with if they are coming.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but really, really quick, we have one last question. What is the most believable alien experience story you have, or you've heard, or or?
So I've heard a lot, and I'll go. There are so many. I've met so many credible witnesses, and I'll mention is Calvin Parker from Pascagoula, Mississippi. It was a case in 1973. Calvin Parker and Charlie Hickson report that they were abducted into a craft. One of the interesting things about the case is that they had never shown any interest in UFOs before. They were in a police station, really being interrogated for this. And the police sergeant left the room, and there was a tape recorder that was left playing. And it's pretty clear that they didn't know that was going, and they kept their account consistent with that. That's one interesting thing. What I find even more compelling is I've met Calvin Parker. He's a friend of mine. He's just not the kind of person that I think would be deluded or make something up. And indeed, over the years, there have been more and more witnesses that have come that have come forward and said that they saw something that night also. So it's a case that keeps gathering more and more evidence.
Well, that sounds like a great one. We appreciate you being here today. Thanks for everything, and thanks for the great debate.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. And I see Virginia backstage, guys.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to pop Paul out. I'm going to pop myself out. I'm going to pop her right in here, okay?
Thank you.
All right,
That's
Soda
great.
Pop, tell us about the recipes that are in the book.
I really do love to cook, and myself and for my family, and I kind of gather recipes and always trying out new stuff. And also in the whole book centers a bit around the diner where everybody goes out to eat. They have good food for reasonable prices, and as we all know, after a hard day of work, sometimes we don't feel like cooking anymore. And so I started to integrate some of the stuff that the people eat in the books, and I gathered the recipes and put them together at the end of the book.
That's a really, really good idea. I know that my wife would love that. That's a great idea. I'm so interested that you set your stories in a country that you don't live in. What's the most challenging part of that for you?
The most challenging part is probably to get things that everybody is used to get the stuff right, like high school. I mean, I've spent 1 year in high school in the States, but that doesn't make up for all the things that the rules or the happenings like homecoming or things like that. I'm never sure to get all the details right. So I do have some friends left over, so I can ask them and ask them to help me out there, or also stuff about the federal agencies or things like that are just very different and I'm not aware of maybe. That's
And
actually...
Sorry.
Excuse me? No, go ahead.
No. And now you decided to finally bring these books to the U.S. So why now? And when your books will be released on the market, actually?
The first book will hopefully be released in, I think, in June or July.
This
Something
summer,
about that.
2020, summer 2020. Okay, 2022.
That's right. And I've played with the idea for a long time, actually. And it's really hard to get a good translation. I didn't just want to put any translation out there. I really want people to love the book, to have a great reading experience and to dive into the stories. And I think now I have found a perfect team with the Black Chateau, and they really understand my vision. It shouldn't be just not a cheap translation. I mean, I didn't want to do that to my books, actually. They're my babies.
We totally understand. You're in good hands, and I know that people in America are going to be eating this up all summer, and they're literally going to be eating while they're reading because they can do that.
They have the recipes.
And the stories make great holiday reading as well.
Yeah,
I love it.
And because I'm hosting this with Ryan, I had a chance to look at your manuscript, like the initial translation. And I promise you guys, I mean, her books are absolutely phenomenal. So keep an eye on Amazon and all other book retailers this summer 2022 for The Rocky Mountain Causes by Virginia Fox, because you are in for a treat. So don't miss them. Virginia, I know it's very late in Europe right now. My mom is back in Europe too, so I understand that you.
Thank you very much, and I'm really sorry about the.
Don't worry.
Don't worry about it at all. It was all fine, and you were just a delight. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Go to sleep.
Bye. Thank you. I will.
Thank you, Virginia.
Tell us about your book. Tell us the name and what your book's about.
Well, I was going to read from a book that's in progress. It's called Katerina by Moonlight, and it's a novel that takes place in the late 15th century. And it's kind of an unusual thing for me to do because I spent 50 years as a photographer. And I reinvented myself as a novelist in my 70s. So I was inspired to write this book by a trip that I took to Florence, Italy in October 2019, just before the plague hit. And I fell in love with Florence, and I fell in love with Botticelli, and I fell in love with the city of Florence. And when I came home, I sat down and started to write this novel. I am not a plotter, I'm a pantser. And the characters in it all channeled themselves. I wrote what they told me to write. And it took massive research. I researched probably 20 hours for every 5 minutes of writing. Wow. Because I wanted the background history to be accurate. But what carries a reader through is not the history, but the emotions of the characters that they can identify with. And so I have some pieces that I can read to you from it. The one I'm planning to read is particularly emotional because it's based on the last few weeks of my own father's life. So shall I go ahead and read?
Yes, please do. Thank you so much for sharing.
All right. It's 1485. My heroine is Katerina, whose father, Andrea, has given her a small ivory horse when he left her at a convent when she was 5 years old. And now she's grown and she has a small daughter of her own named Eleonora after her dead mother, who was known as Nora. And Katerina has traveled from Florence to England to find her father, who has remarried. And Katerina and Eleonora have just arrived at his home in London and encountered his wife, Margaret. I turned to Margaret. When might I see Andrea? You can see him now if you wish, but his condition must remain a secret. He is not the man he was. He does not recognize me or our children. What is his condition? He has lost his wits and has been unable to run our business for many months. I take care of everything secretly in his name. May we see him? Of course, but do not expect him to know who you are. She rose from the table and beckoned me to follow her. Eleonora came with me. Margaret led us upstairs and unlocked a chamber door. You keep him under lock and key? I must. At night he wanders, crying out for help, not knowing where he is. It would wake the neighbors, and if anyone discovered that he is incapable and that I am handling everything, we would be ruined. She pushed the door open. He sat near the window, hunched over, his snow-white hair falling forward over his face. Andrea, you have visitors? He turned toward us, his rheumy eyes blank, bewildered. There was no recognition. He lowered his head again. Eleonora tugged at my skirt. He looks so sad, Mama. I did not remember him being so frail. His blue eyes had a pale white cast, as if painted with pearl. Papa, I said. His gaze drifted back and down to Eleonora, who stood by my side, clutching the little white horse he had given me on the day he abandoned me. Show him Luna, I told her, and she held it out to him. He glanced down at the talisman that had sustained me through my childhood, then back up to Eleonora's face, and his expression changed to one of joy. Katerina, my little beauty, you have found me. He extended his unsteady arms, seeking her embrace. Mama? Eleonora looked up at me, confusion in her furrowed brow. He thinks I'm you. It's all right, my love. Sometimes that happens when one is very old. Go to him, it will make him happy. Eleonora stepped closer, and he took her in his arms and began to weep. My Kati, I have missed you so. I was so lost, and now you have found me. He glanced up at me, and his brows lifted. Nora, have you come for me at last? Will I join you in heaven? All the questions I had for him evaporated, and all I could see was the remnant of the first man I had ever loved, and his pain and confusion. If he thought me to be my mother, and Eleonora to be me, both frozen in time, and it gave him comfort and joy, so be it. His beatific smile through his tears, his relief at holding us in his arms again, was enough. I shook my head and took his deeply lined face in my hands. It is not your time yet, dear one. But soon, I think. I kissed him on his forehead, my tears joining his own, surrounding them both with my arms, and I wept. After a few minutes, his eyes closed and he began to nod. Eleonora slipped from his arms and joined Margaret in the hallway. I chose that because the subject is how emotions don't change.
That was so beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I should maybe read something lighter from it.
Tell us a little bit about just like how did that come out of you? I mean, you said it just came to you, but I mean, that was so specific. So some of you is in there. It didn't just come, it takes work to get stuff like that.
Well, that part was based on the last few weeks of my father's life, where every time he saw me, it was as though I had found him after he had been lost. And I saw him every day, but he had the same reaction every day. And so writing that was very emotional for me. The whole book is not that serious, although it is pretty sumptuous and it covers a lot of territory and and it also has a lot of humor. But it goes from Katerina at age 5 through about age 26 or 27, and travels across Europe to the courts in Paris and to London, and her involvement with the Medici family and the Pazzi conspiracy. I took the historical events of that time and I hung my plot on those historical events. And every time I could see a scene really clearly, I would write that first. And I had all of these wonderful little scenes, and the pattern of how they went together came to me, and the connective tissue came to me. But one of my favorite characters is Katerina's best friend, Lucretia, who's a little older and much wiser, who was put in the convent with her in order to keep her out of trouble until she got married, because she was far too curious and knew far too much. And she was Katerina's first introduction to the secular world, because, mind you, she was raised in a convent after her father left her there at age 5. So her whole mindset is the ecclesiastical mindset of the Middle Ages. And she's married at 14, and her husband wants to use her to ingratiate himself with the Medicis. And that introduces her to the whole birth of the Renaissance. And she becomes a model for Botticelli, and she becomes a lover with one of the Medicis. And it's a very sumptuous book. Covers a lot of territory.
When will the book be released? Because we are kind of running out of time. So yeah,
that one is still a work in progress. I'm working on the second draft right now. It hasn't been to my editor yet. The 2 books that are in print from traditional publishers are my 2 coffee table photo books. One about working with John Carpenter on Halloween and Escape from New York and other films, and one about working with Bob Marley over a 2-year period. And those are both published by Titan Books in the UK, but they're distributed through Random House. They're available through Amazon or at any good bookstore. I'm putting my information in the chat. So if anyone would like to see we will put the information. The information is available on the BookFest website, where everybody can find it. Thank you so much, Kim, for being here with us today and for being with us early. Hello, and to our next guest, the beautiful and amazing Anna. Hi.
Peace. How are you?
Hi, it's wonderful to have you here. So let me introduce you. You are an award-winning author. You're a speaker. You're a producer and singer-songwriter. And you're also an author of children's books.
That is correct. I have the honor of creating the Nizari series right here. Something truly to represent us, represent the children of the world, and to teach the children, especially here on the Western side, their true history. Because we all know you need to know your identity to truly be able to guide yourself throughout life.
How does your ability to write songs play in writing a children's book?
That gave me all of the training. You know how they say you need about 10,000 hours to master something? Well, I had about 20, 30, maybe even 50,000 hours worth of that training before I actually began writing the Nayazuri series. Songwriting and writing a book is essentially the same thing. Nayazuri is my longest song. It's my masterpiece.
I love that idea, but I agree with you. Like, writing is writing, and the more you write, the more that comes out.
Exactly.
What is the overall story or theme that you're going for in your series?
Well, my theme follows my fearless heroine, Nayazuri. She is fearless. She is a leader. She is solution-based, right? She is someone who understands how to take any sort of adversity, any sort of challenge, and actually find the opportunity. Find and create a way, if it's not obvious, to lead herself and her best friends, Miguel and Hugo Gonzalez, throughout history, and actually meet other children from those times and assist them with overcoming a challenge, or assist them with overcoming some sort of adversity, something in their environment, or something actually internally that is stopping them from continuing on in their own destiny. So it is adventure, it is sci-fi, it is empowerment, it is history, it's culture, and beyond all of that, it's representation and it's empowerment, really getting children encouraged to read in the first place.
What age group do you suggest?
Honestly,
before? I mean, I know everyone, but I mean, I should never ask an author that question because they're like, the age group is anyone who has money. I know that, but I mean, where do you sort of see the sweet spot for your book?
Sweet spot, I would say between the ages of 8 and 13. However, I have readers as young as kindergarten, my own son included. Shout out to my big boy, Judah. And I actually have older readers. I want to say older, more seasoned readers, grandparents, parents, you know, people, anyone who's really seeking the knowledge. This isn't just a children's book, right? It's focused on the youth, yet it's truly for all.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is really important now for children, and particularly for girls, because of social media and everything that's going on in there, to embrace their uniqueness, you know, the way they look, and not make sure that they stay themselves. They don't have to be. They need to understand they don't need to be like every other girl. They are perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that books like yours, they can, you know, they can help them achieve this self-confidence and self-love. So
thank you. That is the point. There's so many themes. There's so many messaging. Nayazuri is literally me. She is the older version of me. That's why she looks just like me. She is the older version of me. And girls do need to know that they can lead, right? That doesn't mean that you're bossy if you're focused. It shouldn't be something negative. These strong qualities that we as a society really promote in young boys and eventually men. Why should that not also be qualities for young girls and eventually women to lead this world? We birth men, right? How are we not able to birth this understanding within ourselves that we don't have to be a damsel in distress? You look at all of the cartoons and movies out there. It's always the helpless girl that gets rescued. It's like, no, you don't have to just be a princess. Yes, understand that you're regal. Wear that crown of your divinity. Understand who it is that you are. Who does you have the potential to be? You don't have to wait for that, you know, Prince Charming. We all know that Prince Charming takes a while to come. We have to kind of wait, you know, kiss a few frogs to get that Prince Charming.
I mean, can really I have you like do like affirmations for me to wake up to every morning? Because I feel like going out and getting the world after this. Now, we do have some questions for you.
They're actually in my book. So yes, there are affirmations in there.
There we go. I mean, you just know she could get you up any mountain. We have a question from the audience. It says, what advice do you have for teachers and librarians in stocking/teaching books like yours? So
do it. Literally do it. Make sure that the resource is available. I can't tell you how long I waited for librarians, for teachers to really open up the doors of their classroom. And really, it was really just needing them to open up the door to their heart, to understand that representation matters, diversity in the classroom matters, these characters, their culture matter, and it should not be quantified within a single month. Right? Don't just bring me in or highlight a book because it's Black History Month, y'all. This should be 365. Representation really does matter. And it's important that we do what we need to do, especially in the classroom, to decolonize the curriculum. We understand it's 2022, right? We know how much indoctrination there truly is, and children are lost. They're lost, and we do not need them floating around without an identity, not understanding who it is that they are, and not understanding who it is that the child next to them is. How are they supposed to have love and empathy and understanding for the child next to them if they think that child isn't important? Because we never talk about their culture. We never explain why they have a different language that they speak, or an accent that they speak, or even a certain food item that they may bring into school, right? Like, I actually immigrated here from Berlin, Germany, and my family is from East Africa. So shout out to Uganda. And I was always really subjugated and kind of put in this corner in the classroom. And then I was taken from the classroom and put in ESL, which is English as a second language. No one understood me. And yet it's not a child's job to know innately that that's even what they're supposed to do. It's the responsibility of the administrators, of the teachers, of the parents, of the community to embrace all children and to show all children the true way to understand one another is to understand oneself. Like, we got to get that. We got to get that connected.
Well, there's no way that everyone doesn't understand you now. You are putting out a beautiful message in a beautiful book. They're all available at our website. Please support Anna, because I mean, just feel that energy. I feel like we're just gonna jog for a while. Thank you so much.
We run it.
Yeah, I mean, let's go. What are we doing? I want to do it.
Listen, we're doing whatever we need to do as long as we're actually staying in action, right?
Right.
It's time for everybody to wake up, right? Understand we have this responsibility, right? Understand life is worth living. Let's stop just surviving. Let's thrive. Let's stop just functioning and going
A.G,
through
I'm
life
leaving you. I'm going with Anna.
Taking my part. No, I'm afraid you have to say, because
right, I do. But thank you, Anna, so much.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, thank you so much.
Scott, I appreciate you.
It's been such a
wasn't that wonderful? I mean, this is, let's keep going here. First of all, Tamara, can you hear us?
I definitely can. Thank you.
Woo. Okay.
Hey, thank you for being here with us today, and welcome. And you guys who are watching us, you need to check her book, Despite the Buzz, because that's an amazing book that she wrote. And tell us about your book. Yeah, here it is. Look at the cover.
Thank you. So my book is realistic fiction, and it is academically set in a high school English classroom. So it encourages both digital wellness and reflective writing. So the main character is a teacher. She's from the Midwest. She moves to California for work, and she's trying to raise awareness about screen use inside of her classroom. So student characters star in the story and contribute in meaningful ways. And it is adult fiction. It's not YA, but it is multi-generational, recommended to readers over age 14. And I'm excited to announce that I won first place for contemporary romantic fiction and third place for literary fiction in the contest. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yay! Congratulations.
Yeah, good job. I think we do this now online. You know, for an old guy like me, tell me what digital wellness is.
Well, it's just being mindful about your practices. And obviously, we're using tech today, and it is part of our society, and we should embrace it. But it's just knowing when to take a break and how much you can handle, knowing your capacity and what works for you, and not stretching yourself too thin. It's also about privacy and making good choices and not sharing too much public information with the wrong people. So there are digital wellness resources noted throughout the story, and also in the back. The intended audience of my novel is parents and teachers of kids and teenagers growing up now. There are book club questions in the back, so it makes a great book club read, and there are educational footnotes throughout. So it's almost a hybrid of realistic fiction and nonfiction, because I utilized so much research and incorporated it into the story.
Well, I really love that, because this would be a great thing for a teenager and their parent to read at the same time. So how did you get the teenager's perspective, because my kids share everything. Like, I just think it's absolutely insane, and they think I'm an old fogey. So how do you get their perspective in the book?
Okay, so I've been a substitute teacher and a summer camp teacher for about 12 years, and I've worked in a variety of school settings, charter, public, and private. And I've noticed what a difference it makes when students are allowed to utilize their cell phones. Now, cell phones are a tool and they do have their place, but when a teacher says yes to using them, then students become instantly distracted, and you can see them looking down at their laps, and they're supposed to be using it for research or maybe permitted to listen to music, but then a text comes in or something from social media comes in, and their attention goes to the phone. So the book depicts demands upon teachers. It's set pre-pandemic, but in 2019, and it's expository in that way. And the students each stand for something, and they have important things to say, and there is a diverse cast of characters. There's even a student with a brain injury, and students of different ethnicities and nationalities in the story. So it's really a human interest, but it's also a cautionary tale, and it's colorful. It's a multimedia piece because it serves as social commentary about technology's influence. So it is a paperback that is printed in color.
Oh, I like that. That's how I do my books too. I like books in color. I'm always like, it's 2022. Why are we still doing black and white books? It seems crazy to me. I love this idea. A.G., did you have questions?
I love the idea of digital wellness because even when I like nature and I like, going out hiking and walking in the park, and I see people like this, even when they're supposed to decompress and get away from all this tech, they are still hooked to it, and I think we need this message of finding a way to use these devices to our advantages instead of letting the devices use us and take too much of our time. So what is your routine around digital wellness in your life, like your daily routine, and how do you stay prolific and productive as an author?
Thank you for that, and I really appreciate your statement about using technology and not letting it use us. Myself personally, I have to just be aware of what is serving me, why I'm using a device, and think about my intentions. So for instance, today, I got on at 10:30. I wanted to hear the opening presentations and all, and I was on for a while and supporting other authors and stuff, but then it was like, okay, I need to do something for myself to like calm my nerves. So I took the dog for a walk, no devices. Then I came home and listened to some music and danced to, get into my groove, so to speak. And so doing things that are important for our own sanity and our own sense of balance, I think is really good. I'm also not on every platform, and some people might criticize me for that, but I'm mainly using Facebook and Instagram to promote my book. So you can find it on Facebook on a public book page. Its title is Despite the Buzz, and on Instagram, my author account is Tamara Miller Davis. But I'm not on TikTok.
I know, I'm not either.
Twitter.
I think we're too old to be on TikTok. I should be selling my books on TikTok, but come on. Nobody wants to see us on TikTok. I realize you danced, and I'm glad you danced, but we probably, I just say no.
You might be surprised, Scott, but we have one last question before we let Tamara go. Coming from the audience, what are your thoughts about the future of digital and sites like the Metaverse from Facebook?
Mm-hmm. I think that the Metaverse opens pathways between people, and it is good for connectivity. I'm really glad that this event is so accessible, but I think that the the people behind the metaverse can be more aware and more responsible and responsive to some of the things that have gone wrong and have been brought to the attention of the media and so forth. And I think that we could do better. And I hope that the people, the software engineers and everybody who's behind the scenes there is conscientious and trying to do good and prioritizing mental wellness over profit.
Yeah, that's a big thing for everybody. Just be ethical in everything that you do. I understand that people are running businesses, but at the end of the day, everything should serve people, should help them have a better life and expand and grow and connect. But yeah, well, hopefully someday.
Thank you. I know. Well, I was just so inspired by the research around digital wellness, and I wanted to use the filter of fiction to present these ideas. So that way it's accessible to people who like to read nonfiction and people who prefer fiction. So that's what I did. This is my debut novel, and I'm glad to be here today. Thank you.
And you even won.
Yeah.
Debut novel, and she wins. I mean, what will she do next? I guess dance on TikTok. What else should she do?
We'll see.
Thank you for this. I think this is a really great idea, and I love it. I really think this is a great idea. I'm excited by it. Thanks so much for joining us today. It was great to speak with you.
Yeah, I wanted to write about causes that I care about, and technology's toll is something that I wanted to explore. And the story is also about topical interest. It is timely, and there's a twist. So if you read it, just know that's coming. And I don't want to say too much about that.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
But go to the books page on the BookFest website, and you will see Tamara's book, and then you can go and purchase it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you guys, you stay with us because the live author chats are still on for about another, we won't say. And remember that at the end, you will find who is the winner of the big bundle of books. And now Marcus is back with us. Yay.
And can you hear us?
I can. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah. It's so much better. It's so much better being able to hear you.
Yeah, no, I'm not a technology person. I always say I'm more analog than digital. So I don't know what was happening on the desktop, but I was like, the speaker is not occurring. So I was freaking out. I was like, I don't know how to do technology. So laptop, luckily, I know how to operate that. And so switched.
Hey, you made it. You're on. And who even remembers what happened before?
Scott, you are so intrigued with Marcus's book title. So now this is the time.
I know. I'm going to say the title again because I love it. Where the Vile Things Are, a study in sex, revenge, deceit, and affluenza.
Yes.
I love it. Tell us what your book's about.
So it is how is it described? It's the best tagline. A modern, queer, witty, smart, clever, terrifying, modern adaptation of Pierre Chorello de la Clause's Les Liaisons Dangereux, or The Dangerous Liaisons. Or as most people know it, especially Gen X and down, the film Cruel Intentions with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Phillippe. That is also was a modern adaptation of Les Liaisons Dangereux, or The Dangerous Liaisons. So before I get into that, I did want to, because I did kind of want to give a little bit of a reading first. But before I do that, I kind of step between, do I read just the back of the book description, which I could certainly do, because it's much more coherent in explaining than I am at the moment for a quick synopsis. But I was very fortunate that Michael Carroll, who is the husband of gay iconic author Edmund White, and who is and Michael Carroll is a Sue Kaufman Prize winning author in his own right, blurbed Where the Vile Things Are. And I think it's, when you get such a shining blurb, I'm just like, that's very descriptive. I figure, screw the back of the book description, read the blurb. So that's what I'm going to do. With his 9th novel, Where the Vile Things Are, Marcus James finds the metaphysical in passion, superstitious, automatic, and measure-lead paranoid passion. Patterned on the French 18th century novel Dangerous Liaisons, Vile Things relocates the wickedly jealous machinations of the ancient regime to contemporary gay San Francisco, a society complex enough to accommodate drop-dead handsome bisexual coxswains and gay right-wing Christian pundits working the MAGA field. The novel takes a microscope to the problems of gay feeling and identity, and through the character of twice-bitten Oliver Mertoy, tenderly examines the appalling beauty of sincere, universal, romantic emotion. It is a plea for and a treatise on understanding, which only propels the story towards its take no prisoners climax and wistfully wise ending. It is that enviable narrative, uncannily clever and breathtakingly felt. Michael Carroll, author of Stella Maris and Other Key West Stories and the Sue Kaufman Prize winning Little Reef.
Wow, that's such a. How did you feel when you got that back from him?
I cried. Reason being is, for me, I was obsessed with Dangerous Liaisons since I was like 8 years old.
So is it, do you like the John Malkovich version?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
That is awesome.
It was an HBO free preview weekend. You remember those? And there would be like there would always be like the fake call center in between, and they'd be like, call now and subscribe to HBO. But it was always a free weekend. Right. Well, I was probably like, I was like 8. Yeah, 8. And it was a free preview weekend, and they played Dangerous Liaisons. And everything about Valmont and Mertoy, but especially the Marquise de Mertoy, the fabulous Glenn Close, I fell in love. I just was
were 8 years old when you saw Dangerous Liaisons? That is the craziest thing
I watched
I've
Melrose
ever heard.
Place with my mom at the same time. So my mom and I would watch 90210 and Melrose Place together. So yeah, so I was like, my mom was a young mom, so I was fortunate in that she was young enough to still remember what it was like to be a kid, and to know that like kids can handle a lot more than older adults seem to credit them for, which is really sad that we always underestimate children and their intelligence and what they can and cannot process. As long as you're involved in a parent who can properly explain if they have questions or if something was confusing or whatever, a child can grasp things. So yeah. So but I also came from a family that was extremely well read and love literature. A lot of people write in my family, so it just kind of was just something that I was just attracted to that kind of stuff. And so I just became obsessed with it. And then as I got older and realized that I was like, I don't know, like 11 or 12 when 11 when I realized that I was going to be an author. When that struck me that was my vocation. I what was it?
I'm curious, Marcus, if you also read the book, because
yes. So sorry about that. Yeah, I'm sidetracking. So actually, Les Liaisons Dangereux, the novel. Yes, I own it. I've read it 1,000 times.
Which one is better, the book or the original, the movie with Malkovich?
The book for sure. It's a lot more dark and ruthless than the films. Any film adaptation has ever shown them to be. And also they really took it to, they needed a hero. So in all the adaptations, they make Valmont the like hero and Mertoy just this awful person. And in the novel, that is not how it plays out at all. So there were some wrongs that needed to be mended. When I adapted this, actually, I did it letter by letter from the original novel. So it's because I wanted it to remain the most faithful adaptation, but I also go like sideways with it too, like especially towards the last 30 pages.
What is the most sideways? I mean,
I love Pierre Chodelot de la Classe's original work. But, and even though he actually wrote very strong female characters, Mertoy is amazing. Yes. He was still a man of his time, which was very misogynistic. And so the two female characters who are the most intriguing and the most complex, just kind of get a raw deal in the end. Like, and I didn't like how, in the beginning, the first half, even though the Marquise de Mertoy is using Cecile to get back at her lover, she was still like, once I'm done hurting her, I'm going to actually be the most amazing, real, true friend to her. And she's going to be cool as hell. And then suddenly halfway through, she's like, no, screw that, just ruin her. And I didn't feel that was authentic. So I needed to correct that, because that was a genuine relationship. And I really admired that part. I also needed to right the wrong of Valmont being the hero and Mertoy just being this like awful villain when Mertoy is a very complex character. And I was able to use the idea of the battle of the sexes, which it's historically about, to address things that happen within the queer community, especially with this. There's a big, strong bias against effeminate queer men. And within our own community, like it's a lot of masculine for masculine, no femmes need apply, things like that. And we really, just kind of get crapped on from all sides. And I saw that I could address that issue through Valmont and Mertoy.
Well, I think anyone who's a fan of that movie, which I feel like everyone is in some way, will love this book. Thank you for being able to hear us this time. And
thank you for letting me come back on.
No, we're happy to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
We are so happy to have you.
And I'm excited to learn how to live like a millionaire when I'm a million short.
Yes. Well, even millionaires are excited too, let me tell you.
Okay. So Marilyn is the author of How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short. So how on earth did you come up with this idea?
Well, the interesting thing is, years ago, I was a scientist and had a regular job, but then I went into show business. And, people with regular jobs get steady paychecks and they put them in the bank every month. But as a writer, you could not work for weeks or months or years even. So everybody used to say, how does Marilyn live? In fact, the 3 questions of the universe were, what is the meaning of life? Is there a God? And how does Marilyn live? Well, how I live is I learned how to do really great things at either little or no cost. And everybody was always asking me my secrets. So that's when I decided to write them out and come out with a book, How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short.
So how do millionaire lives? That's my fourth big question.
Well, this is the thing is I loved, and this is of course before the pandemic, I had friends who had regular jobs and they never went anywhere. They never had any money. They didn't travel. They didn't buy clothes. They didn't go shopping, whatever. I love live theater. I would go to the live theater all the time. I would go shopping. I would travel and people would ask me how I did it. And this is how. During the pandemic, of course, some things changed, but then I told people how to live like a millionaire when you're a million short and you're stuck at home. But now things are opening up again. So as I said, I love live theater. So one of the things that I love to do is most of the shows that come from Broadway and they go to your hometown, they have lotteries or rush seats. And so you can actually, if you're lucky, you can get to see Hamilton, which is usually anywhere from $200 to $800 to $1,000. If you win the lottery, you can see it for $10 and sit in the front row. So you always look for lottery tickets or rush seats, and there's a place called Today Tix where you get discount tickets. And some shows, if you're under 25 at the Amundsen here in LA, they give you free seats to every show at all the shows there. So that's one of the things. That's my first chapter, is about entertainment, because I love it so much. And then I have a lot of travel tips, and I'll tell you my favorite travel tip is, if you are from the United States or from England or from South Africa, if your native language is English, how would you like to spend 6 nights at a 4-star resort in Spain for free?
Ooh,
For
that's
free.
good.
And that's my favorite tip, because it's a place called Vaughantown, and they host like 15 Spaniards every week and 15 English-speaking people. And the Spaniards are the one who pay, because they want to practice their conversational English. So you get your hotel in a 4-star resort, you get your meals, you get activities, shows, everything there is to do, totally free for a week. And since there's 4 resorts, you could do it for 2 weeks. Go to one resort one week and one resort the next week. And it's a great way to have a vacation and not spend any money. You don't get your airfare free, but you can use frequent flyer miles, or if you're going to Europe, tack it on the beginning or end of another trip. But that's a wonderful way to have like a week of real fun and learn culture as well for free.
And we have a question from the audience, and I'm going to ask the question, Scott, because I'm a woman, and and your hair is gorgeous. So I'm not the only one noticing that. So
thank you.
The question is, how can people save money with their?
Oh my gosh. Well, this is one that I am excited to tell you about, because, as you said, I have very long hair. It's very thick. And going to a hair salon for a cut or for color would cost me like $200, $250, $300. But I became a hair model. Now, the good thing about being a hair model is you don't have to be thin. You don't have to be gorgeous. You don't have to be young. You just need one thing: hair. And if you go to a place called salonapprentice.com and sign up, there's mostly actually upscale salons that need models to come in. And for cut, you usually get it free. Sometimes color will be like $25 for just the color. But I recommend salonapprentice.com. There's also, of course, go to Craigslist and put in under services beauty, and then just type in hair model. And you'll find all kinds of places in your neighborhood that will give you a color, a cut, or a blow dry, whatever, for free, or maybe for a little bit of money that would normally cost you a whole lot more. And then, of course, there's Groupons and Living Social. And if you're going to do any of those, whether it be for food or for hair or for spas, make sure you buy them when they're on sale, because they have discounts on their discounts.
My daughter actually works at an upscale salon, and she's begging people every week to come in and be her model. So you are 100% correct.
I do it all the time, and they usually do a really good job on your hair. You know, people say, well, if they're just learning, and they do it for different reasons. Sometimes there'll be a new person or an assistant, but other times they might be trying out a new product, or they might want to put photos up on Instagram, and so they'll give you the cut or the color or the styling for free. So it's great. Another thing that I give an assignment to people about: how would you like to find money you didn't know you had? I told a friend of mine about this to go online, and he told me I was crazy. I said, just sign in here. You've got money. He didn't believe me. I told him to go on. He ended up getting a check. Didn't cost him a dime, for $12,000.
Where do I need to go? Tell me now.
It's called missingmoney.com. And you go there and look up your state. Now, some of the states that might not be in missing money, then you would go to your state's website and put in unclaimed property. And then you put in your name and the city and state in which you live, or if you're on your state's website, it'll be there. And I bet 9 out of 10 people will have money that they didn't know they had. And the first time I did it, I had like $450. And then about a month later, after I got my money, I looked again. It said, you have money. I had 22 cents. But you should do it not just for yourself, but do it for your parents, for your grandparents, for your relatives. You know, a lot of people have hundreds of thousands of dollars there that maybe their grandparents had and they didn't know about. And if you can prove that you're their descendant, there have been people who've collected like $200,000. So it doesn't cost anything to do it. And I say after we're done with the book fest, everybody should go check on missingmoney.com.
I think everyone's doing it right now. What do you mean? Our viewership just dropped.
Well, then they'll miss my other wonderful tips, you know.
Well, all your other wonderful tips are in your book. And
where can people get your book and follow you?
Oh, well, they can go to howtolivelikeamillionaire.com, or they can go straight to Amazon at howtolivelikeamillionaire.us. And I'm on Facebook, and I'm happy to give wonderful tips. And there's all kinds of new ones there, and there's new ones if you sign up for my email, or if you go to my Facebook, How to Live Like a Millionaire. I put new things there all the time as well.
Any specific tips for men, Marilyn, because we have Scott here, so...
Oh, for men. Yeah. Well, I hate coffee dates, you know, and if you go on internet dating, first dates are usually coffee dates. And I say, no to guys. Instead of taking on a coffee date because it costs $10 and it's cheap, go to an art opening. You'll get free wine. You'll get a lot of time free appetizers. You'll get lots of culture, people watching, and it's something fun to do that you can talk about. Much better than going to Starbucks for a cup of coffee. Yes.
I love it. AG, you want to do an art show with me when this is over?
Oh, are you asking me on a date?
Well, we'll see how it goes. We've got more people to go.
Thank
you. Marilyn, you have a great personality. You're energetic, and, you know, I love it. Thank you for all your energy and for sharing your tips.
Oh, thank you. And I also write for film and TV. So I'm not just an author. I am also a film and TV writer, and I have a movie that's going to be shooting in the summer.
Wow.
Awesome. Congratulations. What's the biggest show you were on? We're out of time, but just real quick.
Well, you probably heard of Murphy Brown. And then I wrote on a show with Carol Burnett, Jeremy Piven, and Richard Kind that was called Carol and Company. It wasn't the first Carol Burnett show. I'm not that old, but it was another Carol Burnett show, and I was on staff as a writer on her show.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us and sharing all that great information.
Thank you. And before introducing our next guest, whom you can already see on the screen, I just want to mention for those of you who were expecting to see Kim Gottlieb-Walker at 5 p.m. Well, we had some tech issues, connectivity issues earlier, so she went on air live a little bit earlier than expected, but you will be able to watch all the videos from the book fest after the event. They will be on our Book That Makes You YouTube channel. So make sure to sign up the subscribe button, and become a book fester on the BookFest website.
So welcome to the show, Beatrice.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I have a little preview of what your book is here, and I'm excited to hear, but tell us the title of your book and give us a little rundown of the theme behind it.
Oh, the name of my book is Mindless Behaviors, Breaking Through Unseen Barriers. So through storytelling, I unravel different behaviors that keeps us stuck. So I tell different short stories and I have like 7 different characters. So I bring I call them micro issues through oppression. So I bring people, walk them through different behaviors and how far these behaviors go and what keeps them stuck, and then move them through like why and what happened that got them there and how they can overcome them. So through like each chapter, it builds on itself to the end. So through my I start with the mask we wear, and I move on to like unrealistic expectations, and go on to like enabling bad behaviors. And like each story, like each character take on a different emotional barrier, and they actually really get stuck. And one of the things like I really try to portray in my story through these stories is how relatable it is, and how like these issues literally can wreak havoc in our lives that are highly unconscious and invisible.
What was your biggest barrier?
Oh my God. My biggest barrier is that I kept on giving my power away. So in the beginning, I talk about how I've learned that in school and learned it at home as well. And I actually thought I was living somebody else's life. I feel it was something that it was something that was projected onto me. And then we had like that I was given this invisible book, but I'm not the only one that was. So it was just depending on where your upbringing, what environment you in, it's the conditioning that could keep you in these habitual behaviors that are unhealthy. Yeah.
We have a question from the audience, but before that, I have a question. And what is the most common way for women to give their power away?
People tend to wear masks. Mm-hmm. So like the first chapter is the mask we wear, and like how we feel that we had to be another person in different settings. And so like in the work environment, we had to be professional, and we had to like walk on eggshells. And sometimes in our friends' environment, we want to be prissy and upbeat. So we're just switching up these masks daily and over and over and over again. And when you constantly do that, you're constantly giving your power away to the systems, and basically living a life that's not even true to yourself.
One of the questions from the audience is, what behavior is the most obvious to spot and break?
Okay. I would actually say the different mask, the faces, because if once you become aware of it, you never go back. Like, ooh, I didn't know that I was doing that at work. Ooh, I didn't know I was doing that at work, in my family unit or at school or within my social groups and everything. That's the easiest one, which that's the reason why it's chapter 1. The other ones start to get advanced because you start to get into conditioning, which you pick up through your heartbreaks, through your experiences, and even like lineage. Mm-hmm. And like how we have like generational behaviors that we are trying to even break. So,
you mentioned that there are 7 characters. So yes. Do you consider your book as fiction, or do you consider it nonfiction? How do you classify that?
It's a hybrid between fiction and nonfiction. Some of the stories in the book actually happen in a different way. I put some hot sauce on it.
That's the best way.
Inflated, put some hot sauce and like change the character names, but it did happen. Uh-huh. And then others is only 2 stories were fiction in there. So like totally not true. I bet y'all could spot them if you read the book.
Well, yeah, because they don't have the hot sauce. We're going to recognize that our mouth isn't on fire. We're not drinking milk.
Did you do any particular research?
I didn't. I just pulled through my environment. So humanity inspired me. And like, I am a pattern person, and I'm usually good in connecting dots. And I'm like, whoa, if I'm doing this, how many people are doing this? So I watch people, and I'm very like in my head about it. Did I do research when I did the book? No. It's actually through my personal experience and like multiple lens of the characters in my book.
What feedback have you gotten?
I have gotten a lot of feedback about it's very relatable, and more of like awareness, and they never really thought that they do this, but it's something that is really unconscious and micro and readily overlooked. So I got a lot of like, this is pretty like detail, like, and like I do this, I can relate.
But it has to make you feel good that you're helping people. That's what I love about this. I feel like you had, you know, you saw this and then you write this book for the whole purpose of helping other people.
Yes. So the whole goal to me is to break the cycle of reactivity. A lot of us are reacting to our environments on a constant basis. And like, 2020, clearly everybody,
Yeah.
and we don't need to know, 2020, the world stopped. And like, we're not reacting to anything. So we got to sit with our thoughts and sit with our emotions and everything like that and come back to ourselves. So in my book, I really showcase of like how, like, if we abandon ourselves in different ways, we tend to be in these habitual cycles that if we're not aware of it, it's really hard and challenging to break.
If you could give us one short tip on how to break this reactivity pattern. So for example, someone triggers us and
Yes.
instead of what should they do in that moment?
Okay, just one tip. If somebody make you mad, just step back and like do not react. And you're like, well, what point are they coming from? And maybe I'm not understanding, because 9 times out of 10 is a miscommunication. And most people, like, we act we're highly emotional beings, and we can't turn it off. As much as the system want us to do it, we can't do it. So we want to step back and say, is it me, or are they doing that? Is it me that they're actually reacting to, or something that had happened before coming to you? So really stepping back.
And usually it's something that, that the thing that they are projecting of us is just the tip of the iceberg. It has nothing to do with us.
It has nothing. Yes.
Wow, I thought everything had everything to do with me.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much tonight.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing this and for like seeing this problem and wanting to help other people. If we were all doing that, the world's just going to be a better place. So thank you for that.
The whole point is to evolve. So
definitely.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Wow, are you ready, Scott, for our next guest?
Yes, of course I am. I want to get a fork and a knife and a spoon.
Hi, Ravi. Thank you for being here with us today.
Likewise, I'm very, very delighted, A.G. and Scott.
Your book's title is May You Be Healthy, and it's a book about healthy eating and Ayurveda and plenty of other useful tips for a healthy living.
Yes.
And I know you have something special for us. The reason why Scott said he's going to bring a fork and what was it?
A knife and a spoon. I want to have all the utensils because I don't know what he's making.
Knife, right?
Well, I'm going to give you a tip about making kefir. Kefir is the powerful probiotic, which is so easy to make. And I have been making it myself for last 5-6 years. And if you buy it in the store, it will cost you probably $4 to $5 a bottle. And here I'll be giving you a tip that will cost you nothing. You milk you drink, it becomes kefir. And you will be saving so much money that you would say that this book that I have written is the best investment you have ever made. The book only cost under $10. And the beauty of this thing is this Kefir Starter can last my lifetime, and I can bequeath it to my children. And it is a microbiome signature, which is the essence of our life. And that's what the modern discovery is telling us, that we are trillions of bacteria. This body is just a vessel. And if we keep them healthy by lifestyle, right eating, exercise, right thinking, taking care of our daily detoxification, we will be vibrant and healthy, and our healthcare problems will be solved. So to answer a question, yes, I am going to show you a very simple way to making kefir, which is in the page 120 and 121 of my book.
Let's do it.
Okay. Now, all you need is a glass, empty glass, maybe 2 empty glasses, because you'll need it for another day. Then you need a container like this, which is, some of you who are tea drinkers will know that this is a Chinese tea strainer.
Yep.
And it's available everywhere. And then you will need a Kefir Starter. This again is available on health stores, Amazon. I have link in my book. It comes with many packets, but you only need half of this packet, only half. So what do? You take this thing, you open this here, you cut this, and you put half of it in this strainer. And then you fill it with the milk. Now, if you are vegan, you can do it with non-dairy milk. My favorite is, of course, cow's milk and goat milk. Those are and I can blend it together. Okay. Once I have filled it, and I have to just immerse it enough, and I put it in a safe place for 24 hours.
In the fridge, like you mean?
No, not in the fridge. Room temperature.
Okay.
I use my microwave oven slot, but I don't use microwave. Just a safe place, open, room temperature, all year round. Next morning, after 24 hours, this kefir is ready to drink. All I have to do is take this starter, which is now live, and put it into another empty glass with this starter, fill it with the milk, and 24 hours later, this is done. So this process keeps going forever, as long as I live. And if you are going on vacation, you can, if it is a short vacation, you put the starter in a glass, fill it with the milk, and put it in the fridge. But otherwise, you don't put it in the fridge, because these are live germs and they like room temperature just like we do. All right. If you are going on a long vacation, like 6 weeks, then what you do is this starter, you wrap it in aluminum foil and put it into freezer, the upper one. And when you're back from vacation, you put it again in a glass, fill it with the milk, and 24 hours later, your kefir is done. Now, kefir is a powerful probiotic, and microbiome likes 2 things. A probiotic, lots of probiotics and lots of prebiotics. So you'll ask me, what is a prebiotic? Probiotic, probably you knew, because when the penicillin came, that was antibiotic, and people had some knowledge that the gut flora is going to be disturbed because of this penicillin or antibiotic. So they said, eat yogurt, eat cottage cheese, and all that kind of thing. And this is happening in 1940s, 1950s. All right. But as we went into fast food, all that slow food fermented business went away. And we are into this problem, that because our microbiome is depleted. So prebiotic, which is a very recent term, came after microbiome discovery, which happened in 2007. And the whole idea of fiber changed because they realized that fiber is something our microbiome loves to eat. Okay. So plant-based products, these are good prebiotics. Okay. And these fermented products, these are good probiotics. So our whole mental set for food has to change. So what is a good prebiotic? It is called mung beans. You may have heard of mung beans. Chinese and Eastern culture, this is a lentil that is it looks like this grain, green grains.
Yeah,
and these are lentils.
That's very interesting, and I'm pretty sure that there is so much more about all this stuff in your book, and that's why we highly recommend people to read it. Unfortunately, we don't have much time to left, and we have a couple of questions from the audience. So one question is, what happens to the milk, because usually we know that if we let the milk sitting out, it will go bad, especially like cow milk, not almond milk. So
yes, so going bad, kefir stays sour. Because it is fermenting. And the idea here is that the fermentation will make it like curdle. The milk will become thicker. Okay. But so in 24 hours, your milk will just get a little sour, and you have to get used to that sour taste, because that is a fermented. Sauerkraut is sour, kimchi is sour, pickles
But I mean,
are sour.
we're going to be okay drinking milk that's sat out for a day?
Well, just look at kefir. Kefir is ancient. It is 1,000 years old. And in Ayurveda, it is called sour milk. And we have been eating fermented foods in all cultures for ages.
Okay,
so
well, then we're trusting you.
The other answer is, for 5-6 years, I have been doing it. And I'm here live to give
and
you
he looks great, so you know what? Heck with it. I'm leaving the milk out tonight. No, it's really is a great tip, and you can obviously see that you are very knowledgeable, and this is a book to help us live healthy and not have to worry about the other taking medicines. Let's be healthy. Let's live healthy. So I love this idea. Thank you so much for sharing and giving us that great tip.
You're most welcome. And my prayer is, may you all be healthy.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. Wow. And hello to our next guest. Hello, Alicia.
Hi, how are you? Good evening.
Wonderful. We are wonderful, and we are excited to have you here with us tonight. Alicia is the author of Latinas in Architecture, Stories of Raising the 1%, one Latina at a time. And she's got so many interesting stories to tell us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, and I'm excited to talk about the book. The book is an anthology, and it features 19 stories of Latina women and their experience in the architecture profession. And it started 2 years ago with the mission to raise the 1%. There are 122,000 licensed architects in the U.S., and we represent, as women, we represent 20, and as Latinas, we represent less than 1.
Wow. Why is that? Why is that?
Well, that's a very good question, and that's why the book was written, is to share our experiences and what we go through as to why the numbers drop, because right now there are about 50% of women who start to study architecture, but after that, what happens? What happens to all of the women? So we have a nonprofit called Architina, and all of the sales of the book go towards the programs for our nonprofit to help with study resources, with our programs, and really move the needle to help women along this journey. That's very difficult, but rewarding in the end.
So what was the common denominator between these 19 women that you interviewed?
It was, interestingly enough, it was family. Family is huge among these stories, and I have a special guest here. I said that the book is 19 stories, and I happen to have one of the co-authors here with me. So she is open to questions as well, but it just offers very different stories of women who are along different times in their journeys, where some are mothers, some are entrepreneurs, some are just starting their profession. And Gabby, why do you think, what is a common denominator?
I think it does take a lot of time to finish school. We go through school. You then have to work under a licensed architect for many hours, and then study to take the exams. And there's multiple exams that do take time to study, take time to prepare prior to taking the exams.
And it's expensive.
And it's expensive as well to get the study materials to be able to then sit for the exams. A lot of companies don't necessarily cover those costs. So I think it does, there's really no incentive for a lot of companies to pay for those exams, because now then you're going to have somebody that's going to want to, get paid more, so that, so I think there's a lot that goes behind it, but it just takes a lot of time. So if you don't have that support at home, somebody that keeps pushing you to study, says, if you are a mother, I was a mother of 2 young children when I was sitting for the exams, that, if my husband was not willing to, take the kids or, to pick up the slack at home, I don't know if I would have had the time to be honest, to sit for the exams. And I think that's, just family, we come from, very close families. So there's always something going on from birthdays, first communions, baptisms. So there's a lot of family obligations that take up time as well.
Right.
So
we have a question from the audience. What does your organization provide?
So the organization provides a mentorship. It's a cohort that we offer twice a year. We're just starting our 4th cohort ever. And this is a national nonprofit that it has grown so much to beyond what I had ever imagined. And so we mentor women who are going through their exams, because it's a very critical time in their lives where they could say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm just not going to do this anymore. And we're there to cheer them on. We're there to talk about the exams. We're there to say, you know what, I was a mom too when I was taking the exams, or, you know what, my wage gap was also very large. The wage gap is another big thing. And, being able to afford the exams. So we coach them through through a cohort.
How long are the exams? How long does it take?
So we've got 6.
There are 6 exams. Over the years, it has changed from 9 to 7, and now there are 6 exams. And
each exam is like 4 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, do you do it over a year, or it takes 2 weeks, or like, what is the process?
You have a rolling clock from the time that you start your first test to the time that you complete the last one is 2 years.
No, you get 5 years.
Oh, 5 years.
Okay. But you can then start over again. The average time it takes is 12 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so that explains then why they need such support through there. I was just thinking like it's a 2-hour test or something, but now I understand. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, you would need a ton of support.
Before you can sit for the exam, you have to have worked under a licensed architect and signed off on thousands of hours to be even eligible to sit for the exams.
What's the best thing you designed?
The best thing is happening.
As an architect, I'm saying.
Yeah, it's happening right now. So I own my own firm called AP Monarch, and with a focus on sustainable architecture, healthy. I love the subjects prior because it's focused on a healthy environment. Who doesn't want a building that looks good, feels good, and performs great, right? So we are working on a building that is made out of rammed earth. And so what that is it's from the soil. It's very easy to build and requires very little energy to heat and to cool. It's one of the most friendliest types of architecture that we have that is good for us and good for the environment.
Do you think
thank you for doing that?
Architecture? Do you think this is where architecture is heading now?
It has to be. It has to be heading there because we are in a time of climate change where the weather is changing so drastically. We are in Chicago right now, and in a week, we've experienced the 4 seasons. It has rained, it has snowed, it has,
beautiful and 60.
Yeah, so that's, we have to build this way.
Well, thank you for doing that. I love that. I'm a big environmentalist as well, and I'd never heard of rammed earth, and now I'm going to be looking into that. I'm going to try to convince my wife to move into rammed earth. I don't think I'll have any trouble convincing her. Tell people where they can help with your organization.
Yeah, so our organization is called arquitina.org, ARQUITINA. And by donating, all of the donations will go through the programs. $200 one exam, about $1,400 are the 6 exams, a little over $1,400, and then $1,300 covers study resources, and that's just the bare minimum. And the book, if you buy the book, that goes towards our programs as well. 100% of the proceeds. So any little bit helps to move that needle forward.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I've really learned a lot. Thank you for sharing that for me. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you, and good luck with everything you're doing. And here we are.
And here we go, our last guest.
Yes.
We made it, A.G. We made it through. We didn't lose anyone. Danica's going to come in here and close it strong.
Yes. That's the plan.
Hi, and thank you for being here with us today. So Danica is an associate editor at Book Riot and creator of the Let's Parade. And she will have very interesting things to discuss with us today.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk about something that we've been talking about on Book Riot for a long time, which is book censorship and book challenges. And if you have been paying attention to what's happening in the bookish world, or even just what's on the news right now, then you know that there has been a huge increase in book challenges, especially in public schools in the last year or two. So we have really ramped up our coverage. My other editor, Kelly Jensen, she has sort of been leading the charge. She does these weekly censorship roundups where we talk about some of the books that are being challenged across the country. And it's just this giant list every week, which is why we had to make it a weekly post. And then I kind of run the standalone posts and some of the support for that project. But yeah, it's just something that I think we really need to be paying attention to, because there are so many books being pulled out of schools, especially LGBTQ books and books by authors of color.
Who's making this decision? And based on
what? It's mostly been parents who are protesting in school board meetings, which is why one of the things we're really trying to talk about is going to these school board meetings. That's where the decisions are being made. And it's something that I think we can pay attention to politics on this grand scale and forget about the things that are happening in our own community, and, just these little rooms where these pretty important decisions are being made, and where it would really help if more people showed up.
So what advice would you give to a parent? You know, when you see it online or on the news, there's always someone yelling and screaming, and like an average person doesn't want to get mixed up in that, but they also don't want books to be banned. And so we've got to get in there and compete with these loud people. What's your advice for someone who, you know, is maybe afraid to go to one of these?
Yeah, that's fair. I think step one would be just showing up and listening and just kind of getting into the room, even if you're not ready to speak yet. I think just having that support. A lot of the times these meetings have ended up with people wearing colors to show what side they're on, so you can kind of non-verbally signal. Another thing that can be really helpful is emailing librarians and school officials when you are glad that these books are there, because they're really just hearing from people who are screaming and accusing them of horrible things. So being able to show like there is support for carrying these books as well, because usually we're more silent about that. It's really kind of rage that gets the most volume.
I mean, what color is anti-book? Because I don't want to be wearing that. I didn't know there was a color that would let people know I hate books. I mean,
I think it's pretty decentralized. I think they decide per meeting how they're going to signal.
Because if I'm wearing it now, I want to say I'm pro-book.
We have come up with a sign that says pro-book, and then everyone knows.
Then I'm fine. I didn't know that colors were taking sides. We have a question from the audience. Of all the banned books, which one or a couple are the top ones to read?
Yeah, it's an interesting question that I kind of have two answers to. One of them would be one of the most banned and challenged books right now is called Genderqueer, 2 words, by Maya Kobabe. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, but this is a genderqueer graphic memoir that is being accused of being a lot of things it's not. So if you're seeing that, it's good to actually take a look and realize that this is actually a really beautiful and helpful memoir that can help people feel less alone. And then my other answer is that I think it is something, at least at Book Riot, we're trying to pull away from this idea of like reading banned books as protest, because whenever we see books being banned, the sales will spike, which is great, except that that doesn't get those books in the hands of the people who need it. It's libraries where people who aren't able to buy the book can access the book, especially if you're, you know, a teenager and you don't have a lot of resources at your disposal. It's really having it in the library that's helpful. So I think it can be nice to buy and read these books, and there are a lot that could use your support, but I would caution against using that as like your way to protest book bans, because it doesn't really help the most affected people.
I agree. I always say those people should be buying my books. We have a comment. This is a comment. It says, I've noticed the upheaval of book censorship in schools now. I no longer teach, and I feel bad for teachers having to balance these issues with teaching. What are you doing to help teachers?
Yeah, it's funny because right before COVID, right at the beginning of COVID, I actually became a teacher for about a year, and then I left teaching. So it's something that I really think a lot about. So one of the things that we've done at Book Riot is team up with Every Library, which is one word, and they're an organization that is fighting censorship and helping the teachers and librarians in schools figure out how to fight back against challenges. So we did a matching campaign, and I believe it raised over $5,000. I think $5,000 was the goal for our combined, and it ended up going over that. So that's one of the things we've done. And then Kelly Jensen, every time she writes these weekly censorship posts, there's always a call to action included of ways that you can really help. And hopefully it also just provides a resource to teachers to see what's going on. But luckily, at least in the last year, we're seeing a little bit more in terms of resources and organizations like Every Library who are providing that kind of help to teachers and librarians.
I mean, could a regular person just buy a book and give it to a library? I'd never really thought about it before, but I mean, you know, could we be sending books to banned places, or will the library not take them maybe?
Yeah, if it's been banned, then unfortunately they're not going to be able to stock it. We have seen a couple of towns that have done a really cool initiative where they have had people organize a central place where books can be donated, and then they stocked the little free libraries around the town with them and also gave out the books at different events. So that's one way to kind of get around it and still be able to get those books out there. But it does require someone in the town to kind of organize it and then distribute the books. But I know, at least, I can't remember the town off the top of my head, but it was kind of nearer to the beginning of this spike in book bans, and they received just thousands of books that were donated across the country and were able to give away tons of them. So that's one strategy. But if you donate it directly to the school or library, there's a good chance that either they can't stock it at all, or they've already gotten, 10, 20, 50 copies, and then they're kind of stuck with a bunch of books that they will probably sell for $1 at the at the library sale. So not the most efficient way.
And maybe if the mainstream media would pay more attention to this topic, things will change. But this is another question, observation we got from our audience. Why do you think the media is paying so little attention to this situation?
Yeah, we have seen a few news pieces about it, but I think it's kind of the nature of the news that when it continues, when a problem starts to just be a daily occurrence, there's less coverage of it because it's not new and exciting.
Yeah, and I think the free little libraries work perfectly. I have a few in my neighborhood, and I check them out because I love books. So sometimes I find really good books, but I noticed the children's books or young adult, those are the first books that disappear. So they
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing this on behalf of all of us. I don't just mean the show. I mean what you're doing with Book Riot. I mean, it's a great way to volunteer, and the only way changes get made is with people like you stepping up. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
It was you were a great closer. I knew she was going to close well. I just knew it.
Thank you, Danica. Wow. Whew.
Well, we made it. How about that? And not one snafu. Not one. The whole time.
Yeah, it was great. And now we know how to make kefir. But, I wanted to ask, should I drink it daily? I'm not sure. I will.
Look, bless him. I'm not drinking milk that sat out all day. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. I know I'm horrible.
I'll let you know. Okay.
I mean, it sounds great. I'm not doing it.
Okay, your choice. Yeah, I respect it.
Hi, Desiree. Desiree has joined us.
Hi. Well, now I want to read his book, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was so knowledgeable. I'm not doing that one. I want some other ones. I'm not doing that.
So, hey, I have a question for each of you because, first of all, I just want to say thank you and compliment the wonderful job that you've both done doing the live author chats. Bravo. This is live, and it's not easy, and you guys you just grace under pressure every time. So thank you.
Thank you to the whole team and to the producer behind the scenes. She knows who she is. So
she did a pretty good job too.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's pretty amazing. And we've got a great
so good at popping.
Yeah.
Just the best popper.
Oh, you guys are hilarious. So, okay, what I want to do, because we promised that we would announce the winners of the big bundle of books giveaway. Let me do that. And then I want to ask each of you about your books really quick, because you both got books. Well, Scott, both of you got lots of books. So let's do the winners really quick and then chat just a little bit if you don't mind hanging out.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Number 6. the winner. And I'm not going to announce last names because I don't want to, let somebody know that you just won this awesome Owl Crate thing. And then people are calling you, hey, can I have part of your Owl Crate? We know how that goes. The winner of the Owl Crate box is Brenda D. Congratulations, Brenda D. Number 5, the Rise Brew Cold Brew, not beer, coffee we're talking about. And the Race for What cup and the book is Victoria Y. Congratulations, Victoria. And then we have number 4, the Fables and Tale bag with books. Remember that bag? So gorgeous.
Yes.
Josie W. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Number 3 is the Sarah Silks gift card and books, and that is going out to Sue M. Sue M. Ooh, we might have a few Sue M's out there, huh? That's a common name. So we're going to let everybody know via email if you want to. So make sure you watch for that email. Number 2, the Guthrie mat and books is going out to BF. BEE. BF. Congratulations. And the grand prize, which is the big bundle of books at the BookFest, is Lisa C. Lisa C. Congratulations to all of the winners.
Yay, great job.
Yay.
Very exciting.
Absolutely. So, okay, Scott, I want to start with you because there's been a little bit of an uptick, I guess, in the Moonlighting book, because unfortunately we've heard about the recent announcement with Bruce Willis. Do you want to tell everybody about your Moonlighting book, please?
Yeah, last June I had a book come out called Moonlighting, an Oral History, where I interviewed the cast and crew, and I actually talked to everyone except Bruce Willis. And I had been trying to get an interview with him for about 2 years, and they would get set up and they would get canceled and set up and canceled. And I just sort of suspected, I mean, I couldn't say anything when I was being interviewed. I didn't want to speculate. So when the news broke this week that he does have a cognitive disease now and really can't communicate, I wasn't that overly shocked, but it broke my heart because he influenced me so much. And what's great about the Moonlighting book is it's everyone talking about Bruce Willis when he was at his peak. And there's a lot of great stories in there about, I think, a hero to all of us.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And yeah, I mean, he really, that's what launched his career. There's people that don't remember even what Moonlighting is, but once upon a time, there was a TV show called Moonlighting, and that's where Bruce Willis got his start. So
yeah, so it's kind of like a bookend thing, seeing him, because he's retired, of course, because he just won't be able to act anymore. But, he was so wise, cracking and everything in there. So it makes me mad that I didn't start the book earlier and maybe we could have got him, but time is what it is. But so that's Moonlighting. You can get it at scottryanproductions.com and get the backstory stage of Moonlighting.
Fabulous. And really quick, I know you have, you are a publisher, you're a writer and a publisher. So do you want to give a shout out to FMP as well?
Sure. I run Fayetteville Mafia Press with David Bushman. We specialize in pop culture and true crime and sports book, anything nonfiction. So, I'm hearing all these books tonight and I'm like, oh, that would have been a good one. That would have been a good one. But so if you have a book, by all means, you can reach out to Fayetteville Mafia Press and pitch us your book.
Fantastic. And A.G., I'll pop over to you because you just released another book and you've got several under your belt. Why don't you tell us about your latest?
Well, so I might pitch my Life on Tender trilogy to Scott, maybe. But that's
a match right there.
Yeah. But so these are 2 of my books. One is I Just Love, A Journey from Fear to Love, and the other one is a book on toxic relationships, something we don't want in our lives. But the new book you mentioned is a book about love again, because I believe love is our superpower and is the energy that drives the world, and is the energy that infuses this wonderful lady Desiree Duffy to create all kind of crazy but beautiful adventures like the BookFest. Her love for books and authors and writing and readers inspires her to do magnificent, wonderful things. And that's the secret, when you love what you do, like she does, like Scott does, like every author who was here with us today, we can create magic. And then we can create magic not just in our lives, but in everybody else's life. So this is the, like the core message of my books. And the most recent one is a book that I wrote to help women rekindle love and passion in their relationship, whether it's like a partnership or marriage. It's called Open Your Heart, Rise in Love, because I think that love rises us. We don't fall in love. We actually rise in love.
Oh, I like that.
6 secret doors to happy and healthy relationship. And I can't show you that book because that's just ebook right now. But if you go to Amazon and you type in A.G. Billig, you will find my books.
Perfect.
I just want to say, just real quick, like everyone who talked tonight was positive, and I feel like so many times in life we think that everything is negative and the world is getting worse. But I mean, I was really motivated by so many of the authors you chose to be here, Desiree. So I want to say thank you to you for bringing positivity out into the world, because I really felt it tonight. I don't know if our viewers did, but I felt it. Thank you.
Thank you.